Shut up. Hello and welcome to Andrew's Clubhouse. This is so awkward because I have Mitch sitting next to me to my right and shut up, Mitch. And I figured I need to do an intro to make it seem less awkward for me, but this is making it way, way worse. I invited him over because he is my best friend after my other best friend died of not having enough care and attention from professionals. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff that I really want to get off my chest with a friend that I trust and has a little bit of expertise in the field, because I think it'll be really fun and helpful. And yeah, let's do it, Mitch.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Wow. Ugh. Did I do a good intro?
Yeah.
Are you proud of me?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so last year I had what I describe as a total mental breakdown, right? Mm-hmm. And it sort of confirmed the fact that I probably have, bipolar, and you said it's bipolar 1, right? But what you also said that was interesting was that normally people are diagnosed as bipolar like after a manic episode. So does it normally take like having a manic episode for you to be diagnosed?
Yeah, it's a prerequisite. That's the major thing. Really, yeah. You've experienced depression for many years.
All my life, thank you very much.
And you just need one manic episode for that to then be bipolar disorder.
Yeah, but see, my thing is that I'm pretty sure I've had manic episodes before, but were mild, or that were sort of, actually, that perhaps we can talk about this, like how you can identify mania. Because like I've been reading a lot of Reddit posts, I've been reading a lot about the bipolar subreddit, and a lot of the questions that pop up is, am I manic?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand, and a lot of the symptoms can be confused with sort of something else, like irritability. A lot of people are irritable, lack of sleep, people get like that. Yeah, you're kidding me, right? Yeah, you saw the aggression that I had last year. Yeah, but see, for me, those symptoms have been normalized, in my community, and I think that's a thing that keeps sort of cropping up. So what are the sort of assortments of like symptoms, I suppose, that people should sort of look out for? Because I still don't really even sort of know how to talk about it, right? Perhaps you can talk about it. Yeah, so what are the symptoms?
Similar to warning signs, hence why I brought this over. I'll just go through it, and it's a couple of things you've already touched on.
Yeah.
So elevated or expansive mood, it's called, feeling bigger than you are.
But see, okay, but all right, so can we just break down each sort of symptom? Because like, again...
Should I go through them first and then we'll break them down?
Yes, teach.
I'll go through them first. Irritability or agitation. Inflated self-esteem or grandiosity.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Decreased need for sleep.
Yeah. I remember messaging you. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Don't interrupt. Yeah.
Pressured speech, so talking fast, or it's difficult to interpret what you're saying. Racing thoughts, like quick ideas, jumping to the next.
Yeah.
Being highly distractible.
Highly distracted?
Highly distractible.
Yeah.
Like jumping between different tasks. Doing a lot of different tasks. So they say increased goal-directed activity. So it's like having plans to do all different things.
Yeah, we definitely need to go back to each of these individually. Yeah, there's a lot. Okay.
Yeah, that coupled with distractibility is a good one.
Yeah.
Physical agitation, restlessness.
Yeah.
And then there's impulsive behaviours like risky driving, driving while under the influence, using substances.
Yeah.
All that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then it can turn into psychotic symptoms too. There can be psychotic symptoms with bipolar 1. So it could be hallucinations or delusions.
Yeah, so I didn't have hallucinations, but I think I was delusional because I say that you know, I'm delusional, but what's a delusional thought? Like, how do you know?
Yeah, delusional is kind of when what you're saying is out of touch with reality. And reality being the most objective thing that we can all agree upon. So
That's fascinating.
For example, I can give you an example that will be close to home, and I hope it's okay.
Great, yeah.
You mentioned to me in a phone call once, and you said that you can see all of the issues inside you, everything from your childhood, everything that is affecting you and has led to you being the way you are now.
Yeah.
But that you could also see that in all other people.
Yes, yeah.
And
that was one of those
say,
uncomfortable, those conversations that I sort of cringe at now in embarrassment, because I thought that I had some extra insight into other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be a delusion.
Yeah. And that's so interesting because it's hard for me, like I understand that now, but I can see how a lot of people will be operating with delusional thoughts that just think that they are smarter than they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
I remember having a cousin that came over in the middle of what was happening, and he was like snorting cocaine in front of me, talking about how all of his life decisions were excellent and he's actually really, really smart. I was like, oh, okay. I suppose I could see that.
Sounds delusional.
Just a bit, yeah. Oh God. But see, so part of the issue that I was having is that a lot of people around me, or my emotional support, were people that were operating under their own sort of delusion. So I couldn't trust anyone anymore, right?
Yeah.
And that was a huge issue that I had, right? That's why, like, I go back to this idea of like me having like a strong, robust support network. So a support network of people that aren't drug addicts and delusional themselves, right? Because I was also being sort of talked to by my brother, right, who's an addict, right, who recently just sort of got out of jail, and he'd only speak to me when he was like on something, man. So I was manic and he was on drugs, and we were speaking the same language, right? And I knew that's kind of how I identified that something was wrong with me, because my brother on ice was making more sense than he normally did, right?
That's interesting.
Yeah, but in all honesty, like I felt like I was high, but not on drugs, right? But then I realized that even the sober people in my life, or the so-called sober people in my life, operate under some sort of delusion. You know, can't tell you about one that is actually really, really close to home. It's actually, I want to get it out. So I'm just going to say it, right? Because I had a lot of experiences in my manic episode where everything was heightened, right? And I have this really weird sentimental attachment to particular events that happened to me during that sort of time, right? And there's a photo there of a balcony with the view of Jindabyne.
Oh yeah.
Because I was out, I went to a cousin's house who had an apartment in Jindabyne, and that was really important for me to go there because that wasn't too long after I did a triathlon in Jindabyne.
Yeah.
Even though, speaking about delusion, I went to a triathlon and I didn't even know how to swim.
Yeah.
I was dog paddling, right? Do you think that's a delusional thought?
Yeah.
Just a bit, right?
Seems, yeah.
Yeah. And you know, when I got into the water, like something hit me and I'm like, what? Something's wrong.
I would have loved to see that.
Yeah, well, Ray's got a video.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was dog paddling. Yeah, and everyone was like an Olympic sort of swimmer and like ex-Marine and shit like that, right?
Nothing to see here.
Yeah, it was unbelievable now that I think about it. But the sense of accomplishment that I got for just simply finishing that triathlon sort of was good in a way, but also unhealthy, because sort of like a gambler winning, right? And for me, just finishing the triathlon sort of reinforced the delusion, right? That what I was doing was good and right. But really, I was like this weirdo who just recently got a bike, who didn't know how to swim, right? Who recently sort of almost drowned, right? In Nora Head. Thought that he could do a triathlon. You know what I mean? Right? But it was that sort of confidence that made me think, no, there's something special about me, right? There was this grandiosity about it, right? But what had happened when I finished was this sort of tension between the two, right? That I did accomplish something, that I suppose to me was somewhat impossible, but I still felt like something was wrong, like like ill at ease, or just something was up, man. Like
that is a grandiose idea too. Like you're taking on a triathlon.
Yeah.
Just out of the blue.
Yeah, just out of the blue.
I'll be all right.
Yeah, I'll be all right. Yeah. And the thing is, I was.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't. You know, I really, really wasn't at all. You know, and I was ignoring other sort of more important things, like these investments that I had with my cousins, right?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't take the pressure of that, and I just needed to sort of go from idea to idea, right? But I had a sentimental attachment to that because I got this sort of sense of accomplishment, and it was important for me to sort of latch on to that being, like a sense of accomplishment. So Jindabyne took on this sort of like holy kind of aura, you know, in a way. And then I found out that this cousin had an apartment in Jindabyne, and he was going through stuff as well. Because again, he may not have, but now that I'm saying it, right, perhaps that was a part of the delusion, right? I thought that there was something wrong with him, but there actually wasn't. But man, there was some things about what he was saying, man, that just flipped me out. There was a person in our family that shot and killed his wife. And I was dealing with that because that sort of cropped up when I was going through what I was going through, and that person was involved in a company that I was working for, and then that's a company that my cousin, you know, took that, misappropriated the funds that were supposed to go to me, right? That person that owned that company, his father, shot and killed his mother. And I was really, really, really struggling with these things because in my mind that hit differently, you know what I mean? I thought that it was the devil was after me or something, and that's the connection, and then my family demonic and blah, 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 whatever, right? And here's the thing, this guy that was in Jindabyne, he must have misspoke, I don't know, but he said this, man, and it still haunts me strangely, right? He said, I'm not going to say his name, right, because I want to keep this as anonymous as possible, but that person, X, who, you know, shot and killed his wife, I respect him. That's a man that you respect. And I snapped at him. Because to me, he's saying that he respected that deed, right? But in my mind, because of what I was struggling through, that person took away someone's mum.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know,
you'd think he's in no position to be saying what's respectable or what's not.
Yeah. But to me, that's a delusional thought, right? I don't know, or he must have misspoke, but like I was so troubled by like so many of the people that I was reaching out to try to help me were saying all these ghastly things and doing all these ghastly sort of things, you know? And you know, I began to think like, do I have mania? Or am I just living this sort of normalized kind of behavior in my family, right? Because I feel like that's a delusional thought, to think that someone that would do something so horrific would be deserving of respect at all, right? I don't know. I don't know. But that, yeah, I don't know why I felt like I wanted to say that, but I did really want to say that. And I feel better for saying that, but I don't know what it was all for. Like why
just
that
now?
hit me. That having the impact that it did at the time.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm telling that to you for you to, in the hopes that you'll be like, no, that's not a delusional thought, or yes, that is a delusional thought, or mate, I don't know what you want me to say to that. But that thing really, really, really hit me. And I was really worried because this guy, like, because he was also saying a lot of other stuff, and he kept, every morning, you know, he kept describing to me nightmares that to me sounded like he was struggling with panic attacks and stuff like that, right? Anyway, he passed away a few weeks after that.
Can we go back to that when you're asking about whether it's a delusional thought or not? What was the thought?
That someone that shot and killed their wife is like worth respect. that that's a respectable act.
That that's delusional to think that.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah. But that someone would say it and think that.
But it's the fact that he has actually shot and killed his wife, and then he's said about your performance, right? That he respects what you've done.
No. That he respects the person that shot and killed his wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what he was saying.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That person, yeah, bro. Like, Andrew, can I be honest, man? Like, I respect that. That's a man, right? And I think in his mind that he was saying that, like, a man that really sort of like takes care of business,
kills his wife.
I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the type of people you'd want to associate with, right?
But see, at the time, I really wanted to associate with him because he was so kind to me at a time that I just needed people to be kind to me.
Yeah.
And remember, Jindabyne took on this holy sort of place, right? So in my mind, like, I'm in heaven and hell. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in Jindabyne, this beautiful place. And then I'm also sort of being reminded of, like, these toxic elements of my family and these people that are showing me hospitality, like great hospitality, but are also exhibiting these really toxic sort of ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was plagued by that, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like pretty different values to what we would have in kind of the culture of Australia, let's say, even though it's multicultural, but, you know, the Western values. Yeah. Certainly not going to say you respect someone that's shot and killed their wife.
Yeah, but that made...
For that reason, like, because he stood his ground, mate.
Yeah, probably, man. Yeah. Because if someone disrespects me... No, and what was it? It was his brother-in-law, like his wife's brother, was getting in between them. And you never come between a man and his wife. Yeah. I don't know, man. There was something in that experience that I had, and particular things that he was saying, which to me was a reflection of these normalized ideas in my sort of family that really frightened me and really kind of troubled me. And fed into my mania. Like, am I? Like, I feel grandiose because I can identify that that's horrid and wrong. You know? It was a really confusing kind of experience that I had, you know, because it was so happy and good and euphoric, right? Because I was having lovely dinners with him and I got to know him as a person, and he saved a photo of my wedding, like in the photo booth, right? He had like a box full of like these sentimental photos and it was just so cute and lovely. But then he was also really, really sort of troubled. Yeah. And then he'd say things like that. And like, yeah, it just, I think with that particular relationship, separate from the mania, I think I'm just struggling with some sort of closure or guilt or something. Because I think that I could have done more.
What's the guilt?
Because I knew that he was troubled.
That he was troubled.
Yeah, and he was made fun of by the family, you know? And I sort of knew that, and in my mind, I was like, I was an angel that was sent there to help him. Because I was delusional. And I found out that he was, you know, good in some ways, but really, like, far sort of gone in other ways, you know? Yeah. Ugh. Anyway, I suppose I should just sort of leave that there because, I don't know. It's a heavy thing.
Do you want to talk about the closure?
Yeah. Thank you.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. I don't know because I was trying to help him with his business, right? Because he'd had a really bad sort of time for the last several years. Got into a motorcycle accident. Business sort of went down, was in a lot of debt, right? And was always struggling to, like, with relationships with women, right?
Yeah.
And I saw all that, and I saw myself in him as well, right? The debt, right? Being abused by your cousins, right? Being taken advantage of financially, right? Because he had his own sort of issues with that family, and, you know, money and all that sort of stuff as well. And I really, really saw what he was going through, and I sympathized and I empathized, and I wanted to help him, you know? And I started making business cards for him and logos because he wanted to restart his business. And he just got a contract, a scaffolding contract, because he was a scaffolder in Bondi, and he sent me a photo of, you know, the view from the building in Bondi. I was just so happy for him. I said, like, we got to go out to celebrate, and the next day, yeah, he passed away. But I really want to help him, to show him my gratitude. I don't think that's mania. I think that's just, I don't know, human.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
That's how it sounds.
Yeah, but I think that when he passed away, it just sort of sunk me deeper. It made me, because I think I'd made some headway, and then when that happened, I'm like, okay, like this is just getting too close, right? Because I hadn't even got over the first death in like June last year.
Yeah.
And then for that to happen, it just confused me. It made me feel like it was me.
Yeah.
If you get close to me, then, you know, something will happen to you. Yeah.
You know, grief compounds, right?
Yeah. And it was really only at the beginning of this year that I really sort of let go of that sort of delusion that, like, it was me cursing other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? Thinking that, no, this is just life, you know? The other person, the first one had a rare degenerative disease, right? And the other one just, you know, was practicing sort of reckless behavior, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah, but you blamed yourself for them at the time?
Yeah. I think I still do with the first one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But you said it was a degenerative...
Yeah, and even his sister-in-law approached me like several months ago to just say, it's like, you know, it was, you know, leukodystrophy that killed him. And just in my mind, I was just like, it's cute that you think that. It's just, I think it was more to that, but I think that's just almost like a cross that I want to bear because of the guilt. Does that make sense? I don't want to let go of the guilt because I think that I should be punished. Like, I think I'm deserving of, you know, the pain and torment, right?
The guilt for him because you don't feel like you were there for him?
Yeah, that, and I made it harder for his family to take care of him because I was spilling my mania all over them.
Yeah,
right?
of course that makes sense then.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, good.
Yeah. It's kind of like, like you said, you wanted to carry that cross.
Yeah.
Yeah. You felt bad. You felt like you hadn't helped.
But I made the situation worse. I put extra stress on his family during a time where they needed to, like, give him their full sort of attention.
And so you took the blame on.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, that's a lot to carry.
I'm gonna need a moment, Mitch.
Take it.
Thank you. Sorry, guys. We're gonna need a break.
Majdale Demile. This Saturday, we've got another pop-up store coming up at Cafe Belfield here in Belfield in collaboration with At Heart and Stand for Truth podcast. Me and my wife will be there. Please come and support us. At the same time, we've got items come from Lebanon, mosaics handmade in Lebanon, icons that we've never seen before here in Australia, all made in Lebanon, bracelets,
We're back. Look, because I've sobbed so often because of that, like in private, and that's one of the cool things about bipolar is that you could switch in and out of emotional states, I suppose, relatively quick. But I don't even know if that's bipolar or if it's just like.
You ever sobbed on here?
On camera?
Yeah.
No, not yet. Not
that'd
yet.
be good to see.
Yeah. Look forward to episode 100. Yeah, we're on episode 99. Yeah.
Andrew cries.
Oh God, yeah. Ugh. I'm going to put myself in a position where that's going to be likely because I'm going to talk about that sort of intense stuff because I think that that's good and healthy.
Yeah.
In a way, it's cringy as fuck, right? Because I've seen people do that on camera, like on social media, and I'm just like, why the hell are they putting that out there. But I think I sort of understand that now. And I think that it's important for me to do it, to show it, right?
Yeah.
Because I want people to see my pain. I don't know why.
You're just being authentic.
Yeah.
It's just being authentic. If you have to cry, you have to cry. And you have the courage to show people you're willing to do that. That's
I
the thing.
suppose, yeah. And you know, like I've seen things on social media that make me more comfortable with that, like big, brawny, sort of masculine blokes doing it. And I'm like, sweet, if he's doing it, then I'm doing it, you know?
That really feeds into what you were telling me before about, you know, how kind of these stereotypes of man. And there's this inability for you to be able to express yourself in that way because it's not going to seem like the masculine stereotype. But the truth is that that even then means that it takes you more courage to cry.
Yeah.
And so crying like that and opening up is showing just how far you are willing to go.
Yeah.
You're willing to stand up and go, I do have weaknesses.
And I have to do that. That's important to me, to sort of give into that vulnerability and to show that and to show that that's a good and positive sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's part of this sort of journey and part of what this channel is about, you know, in a way. That and me just bitching about my cousins.
Yeah.
Yeah, publicly.
Yeah.
Fucking, I'm in my own dickhead.
Yeah.
Can we just quickly go over the list again, and then because I just want to.
Yeah. First one was elevated and expansive mood.
Yeah. Now, what do you mean by expansive mood?
I think it's just feeling bigger than what you are.
Yeah. That was 100% that, and that sort of led me to being really cocky and being really mean-spirited to people that I was sort of very sort of kind and small and respectful to, because I understood the social sort of hierarchy, you know, that's my elder, right? But in my mind at the time, I'm like, nah, man, he needs to know this from me, kind of thing, right? I think that was that elevated sort of mood, yeah. So guys, if you think that you want to sort of bridge up to your elder, especially a priest or like a politician or a police officer, that's expansive mood, right? Right? You know, like
Expansive mood.
yeah, right?
I don't know. It depends what you.
Depends on the context, I suppose. Yeah, but there's also these people that I see on social media that I wonder if they have that, because there was a person that was just like going up to a priest, right, and trying to school a priest on like, why are there so many homeless people out here? I see homeless people and it's your fault. Why don't you put them in your church? But like this guy in later episodes was saying how he was struggling with alcoholism and now, you know, he's better or whatever. And in my mind, I'm like, no, he still has ways to go. Like this, what do you call it? Like savior complex that he has, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really wonder about that, you know? But just like, I don't want to project on other people, just for me being kind of, just bring that back to me. Yeah, I could definitely see that in the way that I was talking to so disrespectfully and so arrogantly to like elders and especially like church officials and that, you know, because I emailed the church a bunch as well because I felt that, right? I felt like this is your fault and I am God now and I'm going to, you know, tell you how you should sort of be ethical, right? It's nuts, man. And what was the second one?
Is irritability and agitation.
Yeah. Emily definitely saw that.
Yeah.
And a lot of my cousins and oh God, being on the phone with, you know, the guy's brother who's my cousin whose brother was about to was degenerating very, very, very quickly. Me snapping at him constantly, you know, and abusing him, being so horrid to him. Yeah, because I was irritable, right? Yeah, but you give into that irritability, like it's not your fault. It's not an irritability in you. They're doing something to incite you, right? They should know better, right? That's where that came from.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And what else?
Self-esteem or grandiosity.
Fuck yeah. I went on a triathlon.
Yeah.
I did a triathlon.
Yeah.
I thought I could swim, even though I didn't master dog paddling. I didn't even master dog paddling. I could barely do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I could not swim, right?
Yeah. Sorry, that was inflated self-esteem. But yeah,
okay. Sorry, bro.
That's exactly what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dickhead.
Pressured speech, so talking funny, fast, difficult to interrupt. I experienced that with you, 100% on the phone. It was just like you would talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
You know, and in my mind, like there was my little self, right,
Yeah.
saying, "What the fuck is wrong with you, Andrew? You're embarrassing yourself. Slow down." But my other self just kept.
You remember that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Wow.
Yeah, very clearly.
Yeah.
That's the cross that I have to bear. Like, I remember everything very, very clearly.
Yeah.
And from my point of view, you'd be very interested to sort of find out, man. It's just, yeah, in some ways, somewhere deep down, or not even that deep down, I was calling you as a cry for help.
Yeah.
I knew that something was wrong, and I was hoping that you'd identify it, right? But I think that, I kept talking as if like I was trying to give you advice, but I was feeding you as much information as possible to make sure you understood that something's not right in me, and you needed to let Emily know because this isn't normal, right? Yeah.
Well, that happened.
Yeah. But you did speak to Emily,
I
right?
did, yeah.
And you did tell her that something's wrong.
Yeah, I'd say Andrew called and he's not himself.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was at a point where I realized that it was sort of like mask off because I hadn't been myself for a lot longer before then, right?
That's exactly what this touches on, is you saying you haven't been yourself. And that's what I was just thinking when you mentioned the phone call and you've got a voice down inside saying, slow down, do this, do that. But then you're acting in another way, which kind of suggests you've got an identity to hold up, which is dissimilar to who you actually are.
Yeah.
That's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
That's a huge amount of effort.
Yeah. I realized in hindsight what got me through is this strong sense of who I am, right? That I fucking fought for all of my life, right? I know who I am, right? And I know that it's intimately tied with my relationship with my wife and my kids and my ability to be not even provider, but just know myself, right? And it was almost like this ethical sort of thing that was different to like religion. It was just, I know who I am, right? And I've been this rambling buffoon before, right?
Yeah.
And I know that this isn't me. I've been working on it for a very, very long time, but it just came out. Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting that you said that. Yeah. What do you mean that it was hard to hold on to?
It takes a lot of energy because it's almost like you have to think twice about just about everything because you've got an identity that you need to portray to the world.
Yeah.
And so you need to work on making sure that that self-image is maintained. But then you've got just this authentic Andrew who's without all of the things that make up your identity.
Yeah.
And it may be the case that there's certain values different there to what you want to portray to the world.
Yeah.
How do you balance that? And then what happens when something from this self-image here falls apart?
Well, you have a nervous breakdown and
Yeah.
you have a manic episode. Yeah, that's what it was. And I realized that what I need to do moving forward is make sure that I'm always living in my authentic self, even though it may be uncomfortable or may mean that I have to sacrifice particular... Sorry?
You cry, so you're not a man.
Yeah, I do cry.
There's that self-image. It's like, well, the self-images don't show people that you cry.
Yeah, but
and then that means repressing crying.
Yeah. My
It's just
emotions.
it's a bodily response.
Yeah, you know, I'd make a part of my projected identity the fact that I don't cry.
Yeah.
I've been through so much and I don't cry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sucked in. God, I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know who the hell I was trying to impress with that, man. But like, when my son was crying and sort of calling out for me on the dodgems, like, you know, and then I identified straight away, like, I need help. People keep sort of ramming into me and I could barely sort of put my foot on the accelerator. I had such a bodily response because I couldn't go to him because I was in the dodgems with my second youngest, right?
Yeah.
So I had to call over one of the guys, please, he's crying, can you just drive with him? And then it was one of the attendants that was standing over him for the entire time. And I was driving like really slowly next to him and just kept looking over at him and reaching over to him. It's okay, it'll be... Oh God, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. It'll be okay, it'll be over soon.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm a good dad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know, Emily, you know, said to me that you're a bad father, right? Like right, you know, at the apex of what we're going through, like, you know, a few days before, you know, we had to physically separate. And I told her, yeah, I fucking know. Because I couldn't maintain that sort of image of the kind of father that I wanted to be because, yeah, a lot of stuff was going on in my sort of head and I couldn't control myself, right? And when I called you to ramble at you, like, you'd understand this and you need to sort of, you know, hopefully reach out across family, but also I couldn't stop calling people to ramble at them.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
What do we got? Increased goal-directed activity.
Yeah, so I did a triathlon.
Yeah.
I taught myself to swim.
Music.
I taught myself to play music.
Yeah.
I became a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Please like and subscribe. 10,500, trying to get to 50,000 by the end of the year. I think I'll get to 20,000, but not 50,000. I might though. You know, I'm really attached to this.
Let's not go small. Let's go grandiose on this.
Yeah. Do you think that's what it is? Yeah, I don't know. I love my stretch goals because 10,000 was my stretch goal for the end of the year. Yeah, and I got to that already, and I feel I don't want to be grandiose about it. I just want to be proud.
Yeah.
I am quite proud, you know, because this YouTube channel, in my delusional mind, started because because that was a more effective way to communicate to my cousin that was dying of leukodystrophy than me actually, you know, seeing him.
Yeah.
It was this weird sort of delusion because I knew that he watches YouTube, right? And I heard that the messages that people were playing to him, the disgusting sort of violent messages that I was sending to everyone else in the family. So I thought, all right, I'll make YouTube videos and hopefully they'll get him to watch that. Yeah, he didn't watch any of the YouTube videos. But it was these weird bloody thoughts. But I don't know. I like my YouTube videos now and I'm really proud of them. And even though sort of I bombarded myself with all these goals, I do think that these are authentic sort of goals that I wanted to achieve for myself at some point in my life. I just did them all on top of each other at one sort of point when I was in crisis. Yeah. It's odd, and I'm quite a good swimmer now. Yeah, but I'm
That's
really
good.
proud of it. Yeah,
it's a
I've always
benefit.
been scared to swim.
Yeah.
You know, and I've always been scared of the water.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could, you know, like swim with the semi-best of them now.
Beautiful.
Right? Yeah. And I like the music that I make. I think it's not. Look, I like the way that it sounds.
Yeah.
And I never thought that I could make a tune, right? And even before you today before you came, you know, I was nervous and anxious, and so I started to sort of meander around with the sort of MIDI keyboard, and I made something that was really pleasing to listen to, and it relaxed me, right? Yeah. So, yeah. But what does it say about that? Sorry, I suppose what I'd want to say is that, like, that's one of the double-edged swords of Mania. Like, you are increasingly sort of goal-oriented and you have the energy to sort of go after them. And that's why a lot of people like
You wouldn't want to get out of that, would you?
No.
That'd be an amazing feeling. And
Yeah.
couple that with kind of some delusional thinking where you're thinking, like, I'm doing great things here.
Yeah. But there were too many sort of components of it that were just not working, that were just pulling me sort of into something really bad and toxic, like the rambling, like the irritability, and this grandiosity, like of me disrespecting the people that I'd normally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is the family, you know? That's the biggest cost, right?
Yeah, that. I wish that I could have been, like, had that sort of direction in terms of goal-oriented sort of, because, yeah, in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to get my family back because now I'm a YouTuber and I could swim, I could play music, right? Right? You're like, but that was a delusional thought, right? Yeah.
A rational line of thinking.
Yeah.
If I could just swim, my family would come
Yeah,
back.
yeah. No, but there was something in that. Yeah. But I wish that I knew that perhaps all that I needed was to be more my authentic self and to nurture these hobbies, you know, interests and all that sort of stuff, right? Because I stopped doing anything that I sort of really kind of enjoyed, you know, for the benefit of, like, you know, because I was working and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, yeah, I think I could have maintained both. You seem to have maintained both in a way. Like, I respect you for that, like the risk that you took to sort of drop that career and go into sort of higher education at the age that you did when, you know, you were you know, in the long-term relationship, getting married and like having a kid, like that takes some like real balls. That's the kind of courage and manliness that I sort of respect the most. Not like gym junkies that you've got big muscles.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah. No, thank you. No, honestly, yeah, for being a friend that sort of inspired me to make me think that, you know, that thinking is possible, right? You can actually sort of make a good go of it. Yeah, man. Because you've got like, yeah, a beautiful kid and a beautiful sort of house that's not cheap. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and you've got YouTube videos that have got millions of plays. By the way,
Don't call out to that.
Huh?
Don't call out to that.
Oh no! No. Oh dang it! I want to know. Are you embarrassed?
Yeah, I get heaps embarrassed.
Why?
Yeah,
that's nuts to me.
It's another lifetime.
That's okay. Like, I look back at the stuff that I did a lifetime ago, and in the past I was really sort of uncomfortable with it. But then I realized, no, this is lovely. Like the photos that I took, the photography and the videos, and like where I was getting into. Like, I think it'd be a shame if you'd stop like a kind of creative outlet for you. I do have that thought about you.
I think the thing I liked most about that was actually editing and putting together the videos. That was creative.
Yeah.
That's the creative part for me.
Whereas me too.
It took so much longer to prepare the content.
Yeah.
And that for me was a drain. And also it's tricky having a family and doing that and working. You're just like, forget it.
No, okay, no, that's fair. But to my mind, like once you start sort of working, like if several years down the line, you know, you get into practice, and then you know you start your own sort of practice. You're more in control of your sort of schedule and your appointments, and then maybe you can go back to a creative pursuit.
I'd love to do that. The video editing and just simple, positive, concise messages. That'd be fun to do. Yeah,
and you know, by then you may be out of practice, but I'd be, you know, like quite good at it, and then we could sort of collaborate on something.
Yeah,
you know?
can do that.
Yeah, no, I have that in mind, strangely, you know, as something that's a potential possibility for like years down the line.
Yeah.
And that's almost kind of like almost like this, just keep doing it, Andrew, because eventually Mitch is gonna want to get back into that sort of stuff and be like a psychologist. So when that happens, you know, you got to be ready for it, right? And it also gives me this weird sort of long-term kind of aspirational sort of thing, right? Because, you know, there is the potential of, you know, this perhaps being monetized or just being like a good social good or something that satisfies like a creative sort of itch. But then there's also like these long-term sort of things where I'd want to do creative collaborations with, you know, people that I admire and like.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
The next one was restlessness or physical agitation.
Yeah. So it was,
Always had to be doing something.
Yeah, of course.
You'd have so much energy.
Yeah.
That'd be the best feeling, by the way, having all that energy.
And trust me, it was.
Yeah.
It was. I felt so cocky.
There's no way you would want, like, if people in your life are saying you need to get help, you need to go sit, and you'd just be like, mate,
I'm swimming. I'm going to the gym.
The best I've ever been.
Yeah. Because there was that, right? Yeah. It took me to be like hospitalized, you know, for me to realize maybe it's not the best.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? Because your mind needs rest. For goodness sakes, right? Yeah. And I realized at the time that I wasn't dreaming, and that was something that I think was sort of important for me to sort of like process and reset. And without that, I just became more and more kind of just like crazy. You know what I mean? It started to get really dark. Yeah. My thinking and the aggression really sort of took a hold. And when I realized that, you know, I have no one in this house and I'm alone, and what the hell have I done? You know,
Scary place to be, man.
Yeah. And the amount of money that I lost, and yeah. Well.
Yeah.
What can you do? Honestly?
That's it.
Yeah. Can't control it, man. But you know, it's there's a long road ahead. But you know, everything's sort of repairable. Yeah. And finances, you know, like they'll.
It's just more important that you have a strong self-awareness of what these warning signs are, really, to question yourself.
Yeah.
If it is feeling too good, you know, that's a warning sign in itself. Like, I've got so much energy, I had 4 hours sleep.
Yeah. for me, temperance is a word that comes up. You know what I mean? Because I will have periods where things will get good, right? And I'll let them, you know, if I don't sort of rein it in, you know, it will turn into kind of like, you know, obsessing over a particular goal or something, and then lack of sleep, and then I'll be right back where I started.
Yeah, okay.
So really temperance, right? That for me, the most important thing is sleep and structure.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all that sort of stuff, right? Yeah.
Sleep's so important, it's underrated.
Yeah, it really, really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lastly was just the impulsivity and risky behaviours.
I kept driving and hotboxing,
It's hotboxing.
smoking pot in the car with the windows closed. Getting pulled over by the police, thinking, but it's a prescription. Yeah. But and hotboxing in the car with an expired license and an unregistered car. Yeah, and in my mind, I just couldn't come to terms with the fact that that was risky. You know what I mean?
That's wild.
That is, yeah. And then it was the last time that I got pulled over. Where I realized, like, that, oh shit, I just can't stop this. I actually can't stop driving. And the police actually took the number plates off my car, and I thanked them, right? I thanked them because they were gonna take me to jail, right? But instead they did that. But I said to them honestly, right, like, I can't stop myself, like, I need help, you know. And I said that I'm on the way to my doctor's, to a psychologist appointment, right? Because this isn't. I noticed at the time that I couldn't stop myself from driving. Like, I needed someone to stop me, which then made me realize that basically meant that, like, I needed to be hospitalized because I couldn't take care of myself, right? If I couldn't stop driving and I couldn't stop smoking cannabis, right, even though I had, you know, an expired license and all that sort of stuff, or whatever, a disqualified license, not even expired.
So you then went into hospital? Like, did you
No. I didn't, because I didn't know, like, hey, I feel too good. Nah, man, it's hard. Like, I literally realized that, like, here you'd have to get to the point where you're being, like, violent, right, and unsafe. And I wasn't being unsafe, I was just being irresponsible, right? So it wasn't strong enough or compelling enough for me to be sort of hospitalized for a prolonged period. Right, so the 2 times that I was hospitalized was under Section 14 or something. I was sectioned by the police, right, because my family had called them to say that, you know, I was exhibiting all these sort of things, and, you know, they're scared of me or what I do. So they arrested me and they spoke to me. When they spoke to me, they're just like, okay, we'll drop you off at hospital. I don't remember what I said, but I gave them the impression that, you know, something was wrong. They took me to hospital, I was checked out, and then discharged within hours. Yeah. But in hindsight, like, if I was hospitalized for like 2 weeks in April, I would have saved tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Yeah. I would have been able to speak to my father about the investments. He would have been able to communicate more effectively to my uncle, his eldest brother. A lot of the stuff would have been sort of avoided, and then a lot of the stress would have gone off of the family that I was putting on them, and perhaps they would have, you know, been able to attend to my cousin who was dying of a degenerative disease better, and then he may still be alive. It's kind of the logic that I'm still operating under, you know? That was really lovely, but we haven't finished. That was really, really lovely. Thank you. This is like awesome. This is almost as good as me talking to flat earthers. Watch out for that episode, guys. I watched. I was interviewed by flat earthers, or I had a Zoom conversation with them, and I'm gonna turn that into like this episode. It's gonna take a few weeks to get out. I got it heavily edited and rebut it, and it's gonna be fun. But I just enjoy talking to people about ideas, right? And these sort of, because to me, they're operating under a delusion, but they think that I'm operating under a delusion. And that's why, you know, I wanted to talk about mania and delusions, because sometimes, you know, people are experiencing perhaps psychiatric sort of symptoms, but they think that it's something other than it is. That they're actually onto something, and you've got to listen. And people listen. But yeah, this has been...
I'd be keen to know what the motives are of like what the flat earthers believe that the motives are for telling people that it's a globe. Like, what advantage is there in saying that?
Control. Yeah, because that's what the guy said. You know, it's they want to control us.
Yeah, well, if I'm told I live on a flat Earth, I feel under the same amount of control as on the round Earth.
Yeah. And you know, I'm pretty sure he's the person that's expounding all these views of flat Earth. You know, is still still receives the pressures of like everyday life. But actually, no. Because the big fundamental sort of point is that if it's a flat Earth, right, under in a firmament created by God, then you live in a world in existence that's created by God that sort of loves and cares for you. Otherwise, a speck of dust in a endless void.
Yeah.
There is no sort of God. You're not the center of attention. So it really is this sort of ego thing as well.
And there might be some
mind.
Religiosity feed into that as well.
A lot of religiosity into that, yeah. Because the guy said that he was an atheist or he wasn't religious beforehand, but him doing more research and believing in the flat Earth made him more religious.
Okay.
Yeah, and I found that endlessly interesting.
That is super interesting.
And that's going to be like how I kind of frame the episode that I want to make about it. But I deeply admire the guy and the fact that he had me on, because like I emailed him at a time that I just wanted some sort of validation, some social connection, something, right? So the fact that he replied to my emails and he sent me like a Zoom link, and then we actually did it, and he had like a second guy on who was from Melbourne and he was like Italian. I was like, oh, this guy could also be my friend, you know? It was so sad. Like for me, like internally, like I realized it's so sad because really I just wanted to make a friend, you know? And then they sort of offered me like, you know, that kind of conversation and not introspection, but like, you know, something interesting. And I felt like I was debating in philosophy class again, you know what I mean? Against like Buddhists, right?
Yeah.
And like, you know, atheists, you know, who are big fans of Nietzsche or whatever. Like to me, that was kind of the same vibe. But I wanted to talk about substance abuse, not substance abuse. Let's just simplify it and talk about like, you know, the medical benefits of psilocybin, right? But the reason why I say substance abuse is because like I have people in my subculture, in my culture that take mushrooms, but with pot and alcohol.
At the same time?
Yeah, around the same time, or like think about it as a recreational drug, so take it recreationally, and what they really have is just like this fun, kind of drunken sort of experience, but they don't really sort of understand that they could have, you know, a more sort of substantial experience with it, or rather, because they have that association, they do have that substantial introspection, but then they categorize it as, well, that can't be true because I did it, you know, when I was high, kind of thing, right? And I sort of want to explore that idea and the medical sort of benefits of psilocybin, and the whole idea of psychedelics, I suppose, and what that reveals about you. But so let's just start. Like, what do you make of psilocybin within a medical kind of framework or a psychiatric sort of framework?
I think it would be amazing.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of randomized controlled trials that have been conducted to show how beneficial psilocybin is for depression. The ones that have been conducted, it's been shown to be the most effective antidepressant there is. And the benefit of this as an antidepressant is that it can be taken once or twice and the effects are enduring. There's changes in the brain. No need for medications, no need for side effects. There are no adverse side effects. But in saying that, because these are randomized controlled trials, the people who have elected the participants in these trials will be highly selective. And so they're only going to select people they think is definitely going to show benefit and achieve a good result. And so they've achieved amazing results, but I think what you'll find is in a real world application, it's not going to be as good.
as good as
those
something
results.
revolutionary. You know what I mean, and groundbreaking. Because the fact that you know you said that you'd have as little as like two.
Two big doses.
Two big doses at two different sort of points, right? And you have sort of enduring sort of effects. Because I've had I forgot what the word is, but like not incurable depression, but like treatment resistant depression all my life, right? And part of what I was going through for the last several years is this fucking anguish, right? This frustration that depression wouldn't go. Like I got every goal that I've ever wanted to achieve, I've achieved. I got the house, I got the wife, I got the jobs, I got the kids, I got blah, 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 right? I got status in my community, but I was miserable, right? And I was seeing a psychiatrist, right? And we were running through a cacophony of medications, and the medications just kept making me worse. Right? But I feel like the experience that I had with psilocybin in the state that I was in at the beginning of this year was the catalyst that really sort of snapped me out of the funk that I was in, recovering from the mania.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's actually not recommended for people who may suffer from mania.
Yeah. So at that point, I wasn't suffering from mania, but I was like the mania, I believe it passed. I was just sort of struggling with the after effects. But do you say that would it be recommended for people with bipolar?
It's not, no. Because it can increase the chances of a manic episode. And similar with schizophrenia, psychosis, it acts on the same neurotransmitters implicated in those disorders.
So I have something to say about that. As someone that suffers from bipolar and mania and was just recently in a manic sort of episode, is that to be on psilocybin is not too dissimilar to being manic. But the mania is controlled, right? So what I describe, and I'm not an expert, right? What I describe as the kind of mania that I went through, because I didn't understand it, right? It was crude. You know, and I was feeding into it, and I was doing toxic things that made it worse, right? So like hotboxing in my car, right? And you know, texting my family members, right, and upsetting them. But I wanted to get back into that state and sort of fix my brain, right? And it was so crazy because I felt like characters in a movie or a story, you know what I mean? Like traveling inside myself, right, in a controlled manner to fix it, right? And that's how I sort of took to psilocybin, because the reason why I really wanted to take it is because I really wanted to go back there, right? Have you seen the show Lost?
No, I never watched the whole thing.
Yeah, look, they eventually got out of the island, and then they wanted to go back. Right? But honestly, right, that was me. Right? I wanted to go back to that scary place because I needed to
confront it, learn about it.
Yeah, both those things, confront it, learn about it. And that's where I had that experience of confronting, you know, the person that passed away, the two people that passed away last year, right? And sort of sobbing or whatever because of that. And then also dealing with the things that sort of kept coming up, like as a theme, right? Domestic violence, trauma, being angry at my dad, being angry at my mum, right? Being angry at my uncles, right? And so when I was in that sort of state and on psilocybin, it is, I believe, it was quite similar to mania, but heightened and psychedelic, right? So it was mania, but like just like crazier, like more heightened than heightened, right? It was just this different sort of realm, right? But so it's almost like it was so big and so kind of couched in this sort of feeling of I know that this is only temporary, but it's more sort of profound. It's more heightened, that I'm gonna sort of pick up all these themes, right, and turn around and confront it, right? Like physically, like, okay, this is my dad, this is my uncle, this is my mum, this is this story, this is that story, this is, and yeah, just really sort of come to terms with it, process it, right? And and that's kind of what happened, man. And then I came to feeling so refreshed, right? A little bit jarred, you know, how would you say, a little bit kind of shaken, I suppose, right? But I fully understood myself.
Yeah.
Right? I kind of dealt with them and understood that like that's just a component of me, but there's still sort of ways to go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That it's not like this be all end all kind of thing.
Sounds like it had a major therapeutic effect.
It had a major therapeutic effect.
Yeah.
It really, really, really did.
Yeah.
While we recording, we received an order for the Black Angus Scotch. We're gonna pack it together. So we're gonna cut it about a finger and a half thick, which is gonna be like that. Stay juicy on the barbecue. So we need 5 of those. You gotta cut it with flour.
Talking about that you had a really good experience with psilocybin, that you had a friend.
Okay, yeah. So the friend that I had it with wasn't sort of treating it as sort of a medical, well, not a medical thing, but like a beneficial thing. No, he was, but just as some sort of like fun recreational thing. But he was telling me about how he was having like challenging thoughts, and then every time he had a challenging thought, he'd sort of just like bat it away and then sort of order Uber or like, you know, change the video that he was watching or whatever.
Yeah.
And to me, that was really interesting because I couldn't have any stimuli, right? Not stimuli, but well, no stimuli, because what I was going through internally was so strong that I
Didn't
couldn't
want
watch
to look
anything.
at your phone or anything like that.
But you know what was really interesting? Like he couldn't get off it, right? And what does that say about his approach to it, right? Because I remember you telling me that like you're turned off of like phones and electronics when
Yeah. There's been times where I have used it, like to put on music and things like that, but there's also times when it just absolutely disgusts me.
Yeah.
And it's just so artificial.
Yeah.
Whereas the mushroom really seems to be something that pulls you back towards the earth and just says like, you're a piece of nature.
Yeah.
You are eating what you are.
Yeah.
You know? And anything else is a distraction, I guess. But it's
Yeah.
interesting you mentioned about those thoughts as well, because that's the therapeutic part, is confronting those difficult things. But you have to have the mindset that you're going to confront whatever comes up and surrender to it. It's there.
And that's exactly what I did, right?
Yeah.
And it was very confronting and it was very intense and scary, but I wanted it, right?
Yeah.
And I felt that it was confronting me because it was something that I wanted to know, right? Yeah. So I wasn't scared of it in that way.
Yeah.
You know, I think if people were to describe a bad trip, they were sort of describing what I went through.
Yeah.
But it was the best bad trip in the world to
Yeah.
me. Like, I love that bad trip. It was the most awesome bad trip ever.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's sort of like, you know, climbing a mountain, right? It's not easy, it's hard, right? And it takes a lot of sort of effort and it's scary.
Yeah.
But getting sort of past that is sort of like why you sort of do it, right?
Yeah.
And for me, being at the top of the sort of mountain, right, that catharsis was confronting those things honestly and getting past them, right? That catharsis afterwards, right? So when it wore off, right, and I was just back down to earth, I suppose, I was just still anxious, still and bipolar, right?
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
But now I kind of understand like where a lot of the emotions and all the sort of bad stuff that led to it perhaps was coming from, and it made me sort of more aware, and it gave what I was doing more sort of direction.
That's
You know what
amazing
I
to
mean?
hear.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was good that I was able to sort of get to that point. And I want to keep challenging myself, right, and keep sort of pushing and moving forward and, you know, confront the sort of anxiety that arises in me. Because I've got a long road ahead of me to, like, you know, not just emotional recovery, but like financial and, you know, marital and familial and all that sort of stuff, right?
Psilocybin brings that to your attention, like you're mentioning with your friend who had these thoughts that they didn't want to have, and so they engage in avoidance behaviors.
Yeah.
And that's what you do in real life. It's called a trip because it's like a little preview of your whole life. You're going on a journey, and you're going to learn who you are.
Yeah.
And so there's things that you find uncomfortable. You might find that sitting there makes you uncomfortable, and you're like, I can't have this feeling. I need to get rid of it. I'll go for a walk. I'll go look for something. And then you feel uncomfortable once you stop, and I got to go and do this.
Yeah.
You can't stop. And you'll see in your own life, you'll never take time to stop and just breathe.
That's 100% correct. And that's where I went wrong all of my life. And that's something that I discovered about me. Not on the trip, but like on another trip when I went to Europe at the beginning of last year, I had this sort of profound spiritual sort of moment, and I think that was triggered by like cannabis, I suppose, right? Because at that point, like I keep forgetting, because it felt like something more than it was, like this profound thing that I realized, you know, when I was in this beautiful place, like in front of like a crucifix, right? There's this place in southern Germany that I ended up at that I just had this profound experience, and I let myself cry for the first time in my life, right? Like just proper, like sob, right? And it was beautiful and it was lovely, right? And I told myself that I was okay. It's okay, and what I've done is good, and I can rest, I can relax. You've done well, Andrew. You've done well, and it was the first time that I was able to tell that to myself and believe that, right? It was quite profound, and I thought I found it in myself, but if I'm really sort of critical about my behavior and what happened, because what happened afterwards was very destructive, right?
Yeah.
It's not like I had this profound experience and everything was better. I had it and stuff was worse. Really, after I was just smoking a lot of pot that was not prescribed to me from Amsterdam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of hash, so there was like stronger sort of, you know, dose, and it was different, and I was experimenting with different kind of strains, right? And different types of cannabis that ultimately sort of led me, I believe now in hindsight, to having a manic episode when I came back.
Yeah.
I think, right? Yeah.
It makes perfect sense because it coincided with the time you started increasing your intake of the weed.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. So,
And it's known to stimulate manic episodes.
yeah. But what I learned in that precursor, that amuse-bouche of the manic episode, was something important that I needed to be aware of, because that also got me through the mania as well.
Yeah, okay.
It became the sort of mantra, it became that idea that I sort of held on to, right? That, you know, I'm good, I'm okay, I'm just having a moment, right? And it'll pass, but I've done, like, I need to cut myself some slack and give myself a break, you know? Yeah. So what I did was train for a marathon.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. But then that was the sort of confused kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're on a good side of the mania now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much better. And the experience that I had at the Easter show with my wife and kids yesterday was a sign that I'm in a good place, because we did our own little marathon, like going with 4 kids to the Easter show.
Yeah.
Where the eldest was 5 and the youngest was like 8 months.
That's my nightmare.
Dude, from 9:30 to 5, or just before 5 p.m. So over 7 hours. Yeah, in a wagon with the kids, and it was hard.
Yeah.
There were points that it was hard, right? But like, it was so satisfying because we gave our kids that sort of experience, right? And yeah, man. We out sort of paced our kids, because at one point our kids were asleep in the wagon, you know what I mean? And then we would like looking for something to eat, and it was the ideal sort of scenario that I'd always sort of wanted in my marriage, which ironically happens when we're separated, right? Right. But I was able to sort of achieve that because I'm on the other side of the mania, and I learnt so much because I had that sort of break, right? Because it taught me why I was breaking, because I wasn't giving myself enough breathing space. I wasn't sort of stopping and, how would you say, what'd you say before? Like stopping and reflecting, I suppose.
Just breathing.
Yeah, I wasn't
like
doing
just,
that.
Yeah, doing nothing.
Yeah, and I'd done plenty of that, but also I understood myself, right? So I had moments at the Easter show where I was overwhelmed, angry, sad, whatever, but I just breathe through it, you know? As I'm sort of, you know, pushing the wagon, or as I'm walking with the kids, I'm just, it's okay, Andrew, it's okay, it'll pass, you know, you're just having a moment, right? And
the feeling is there and it's okay.
Yeah.
This is a perfectly natural emotion to feel under this sort of pressure.
Yeah. There you go. That's You know, you should be a doctor. You should be a therapist.
Yeah, I'll try.
Yeah. But that's really all that it was. It was this simple sort of understanding that this is just an emotion. It'll pass. It's natural, and you know, just keep moving forward and you know, enjoy. the experience with your kids. And when it gets too overwhelming, you know, give yourself some space, give yourself some room, be forgiving to yourself, right? And yeah, it'll be good. And then yeah, like 7 hours, man.
Yeah.
And then we could actually, no, by the end, I was just done. You know what I mean? But like, yeah, we got stuck in traffic afterwards. We got Macca's for the kids, you know. We did everything that we were supposed to do, and it was so satisfying, even though the day was so exhausting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I went home alone. But it wasn't sad because I'm separated, right? And I had that moment with my kids, and I'd done so much that day. And I know that an occasion like that, you know, scored me massive brownie points with my wife, kind of thing, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and that's all that I'm sort of looking for. I don't want to put a title to the status of our relationship at all. I just want to cultivate good experiences with me and the kids, and us together, and that's it. And I was able to do that, right, at the other side of Mania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge, mate.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's
I'm
amazing.
really, really quite proud of myself. I'm proud of us, you know, for still being able to maintain something like that for the sake of the kids, even though we went through hell together. And not just last year, but, you know, being in a relationship with the kind of person that I am, struggling with these sort of emotions and being so volatile wasn't pleasant for anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully we can keep making strides on that end. Yeah. I suppose we can segue into talking about how it didn't go down like this sort of bad kind of path that it could have gone down, but I think I'm just happy to leave it on such a high note like that. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Easter show, kids.
Coming so far,
Coming
being a
so
good dad.
far, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, this experience now with us together as friends is indicative of having come a long way.
Yeah.
Because the last, you know, kind of long form conversation that we had together when I was rambling on the phone, whilst like smoking cannabis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just before my whole life completely crumbled.
Yeah.
All right. I've got 3 cameras, one that broke down, we're mic'd, you know, and we had like this, to go from this rambling nonsense to like this structured long form content, that's to me indicative of
Where you're at.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The external world reflects the internal world.
Yeah, and it's highly structured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good, mate.
I think so.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for thank you so much for being here. Would you like to plug what you're doing?
No.
No. He'll be finished his degree at the end of next year. Look out for his practice. No. This has just been
Just a chat.
Yeah, and such a dream and so much fun and really fulfilling and lovely. And I want to thank you.
Pleasure,
again.
mate. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thanks for coming. All right. I don't know how to end this. I'll end it how I normally end it. I'll just say, all right, love you. Bye.
What are we making, Drew? Amaretto.
Slice of lime and a little bit of Kirk and the secret plenty of ice. All your drinks, just fill it up with ice. That's the secret to a good cocktail. A crud load of ice. I'll make it right now for you. A little bit of this. Away. Amaretto.
Lot of amaretto.
Alright, come close so we can get my slice actions in. Alright, slice lemon. We slice. We squeeze. Put it in. Okay. And then we got. There you go.
Thank you, Andrew.
Cocktail. Alright, that's a crud load of amaretto. That's like amaretto with a dash of Coke.
That's my kind of drink. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew.